Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Today is January 24th, and Anthony Santander has signed with the Blue Jays. Profar is a Brave, and we have the Hall of Fame inductees. Let's talk about it. Hello, everybody. My name is Steven. This is the middle of the order. How are we doing today, ladies and gentlemen? Hasn't been too long since we last talked. If you missed it on Monday, Roki Sasaki signed with the Dodgers that weekend. We did a little episode there talking about Roki Sasaki, talking about Tanner Scott, who also signed with the Dodgers, and talking about how those Blue Jays cannot seem to get any major splashes. Well, here we are, one episode later, and we're talking about the Blue Jays making a major splash, because that's exactly what they've gone out and done finally. All offseason, we've been waiting for this. It seemed like it was inevitable, but it's also been the Blue Jays' string of bad luck. So was it really that inevitable? It's the question. Anthony Santander has gone from Baltimore and is now signing with your Toronto Blue Jays. It's a 5-year deal worth $92.5 million. And here's the kicker. Blue Jays taking a page out of the Dodgers books, because $61.75 million are being deferred at Anthony Santander's deal. Now, we've seen this recently a lot happening with the player opt-outs here, because there is a player opt-out for Santander after 2027. However, if he does trigger that opt-out, the Jays can cancel that by adding a 6th year and adding a 2030 extension on Santander's contract. We've seen this, happen with Cole recently. This year we saw, Cole opt-out and the Yankees having then to extend, but there was some gray area there. But we've also seen contracts signed this year where there is player opt-outs, but teams can cancel that with an extension at the end of the deal. So interesting kind of contract structure here, and interesting deal for Anthony Santander, because he is a really good player, one-time All-Star, and a Silver Slugger to boot with that. A career 11.1 WAR, nearly 700 hits, and a really strong home run year for Santander would put him at 200. He's got a career 155. He's 45 home runs away. Of course, last year he did hit 44 home runs, and he was playing at Oilers Park in Camden Yards. So now moving over to the Rogers Center, will that make him more of a home run hitter? Because we know what the Rogers Center can do. Last year with Baltimore, 2.9 WAR. He had 155 games played, 140 hits, 44 home runs, as mentioned, 102 RBIs, an 814 OPS, and all of those things that I mentioned at the beginning, his All-Star, his Silver Slugger, all happened last year. Santander had always been a good hitter, a good home run hitter. I felt kind of like he always got kind of underrated behind some of the other Oilers players that they had. In 2023, he hit 28 home runs, OPS 797. In 2022, he hit 138 hits and had 33 home runs. So really from after COVID, really from 2021 on, he's been a pretty good and consistent hitter for Baltimore here. His OPS, from 2019 was 773, and 2021 720. That's the lowest it's been outside of his first 2 years in the big leagues in 2017 and 18, when he was only 22 and 23, and still coming into his own. He only had one home run in his 50 games played in those 2 years, but since he's become more of that everyday hitter, he's become more and more a predominant part. The last 3 years are the only 3 years he's played over 150 games, played 152 in 2022, and then 153 in 2023, 155 in 2024. So he's been around, he's been playing now. And, great bat is what you're going to know for it. He's got a Silver Slugger, as mentioned. He will crush those home runs. Career high 44 home runs, had a career year. And Blue Jays think he's only going to get better playing at the Rogers Center. Switch hitter as well, so that kind of helps out, that Jays lineup, who sometimes lacks in lefties. And, not known for his glove. I think he'll be predominantly used as DH, which kind of makes the Blue Jays an interesting team. They're always going to be an interesting team this year. This is a very, do it or make it or die on the hill trying kind of year for the Blue Jays. But with Santander, you'd assume he would be playing in the playing DH, because you have Davis Schneider in left, Elton Varto in center, and then George Springer in right kind of deal. But in recent days, the Blue Jays have apparently been linked not only to Max Scherzer, but to Pete Alonso as well. And Pete Alonso, similar to Santander, power bat, will strike out a ton, but isn't the best, first baseman defensively. He still makes nice plays out there. But you also have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. So if you pick up Pete as well now, well, then Vlad is then at first. Pete would then move to the DH, and then Santander is then forced to play, I guess, in left field. So then you have Santander, Varsho, Springer in the outfield. Davis Schneider either goes to second or moves to the bench because now you have Andres Jimenez playing second. So then does he go to play third? But then that's Ernie Clement, and obviously Bo might get traded. They had the kid Will Wagner come up and play pretty well for them. So the Jays have some options. The bullpen is looking a little bit better. I mean, are they still going to be able to make a splash in 2025 here? Yeah, we're talking about that third base spot. Hey, if only there was a good third baseman on the market still. Oh, wait, Alex Bregman is still available. So I think the Jays are in an interesting position where they can really push it and try to go for it. I think the Jays still need to try to extend Vladdy because that's kind of a key piece and something that the fans are waiting for. But Santander is definitely a nice addition to have. It's kind of their main addition so far this offseason when you think about the trade for Andres Jimenez and, of course, the failed trade for Miles Straub, as well as, bringing in Jeff Hoffman, bringing back Jimmy Garcia. Nick Sandlin was part of that Andres Jimenez trade. So there have been moves made for Toronto. They're looking at 2025 and trying to create something here, and hopefully they'll be able to do so because the fans are getting a little impatient here, and I don't blame them. But I think that Vlad extension it needs to happen, and it needs to happen quick. Moving on here, let's talk about Jurickson Profar because he is signing with the Atlanta Braves. This happened last night, I believe. A 3-year deal with $42 million for Mr. Jurickson Profar. Similar to Santander's, had a long career, but last year, a career year for Profar. One-time All-Star and one-time Silver Slugger. Similar enough to Santander because that was last year as well. And his age 31 season, fifth season with the Padres. He balled out 158 games. He had 158 hits. He had 24 home runs, a career high there. 85 RBIs, career high there. An 839 OPS, a career high there. His highest OPS before that year was in 2018 with Texas at 793. He's never finished a season with an OPS above 800. This year he's done it. Remember, this guy was a young 2012 19-year-old kid when he made his debut with the Texas Rangers. Played a short sample size in 12 and 2013 before getting injured in 2014. Did not play 2 years. He didn't play in 14 and didn't play in 15. Made his return in 2016. Had an okay year. 2017 was again dealing with some injuries. Didn't play much. He only played 22 games. And in 2018, we talked about that being a career year for him at the time. A 793 OPS. He kind of bounced back, came into his own, hit 20 home runs. And that was important because that was a contract year for him. He signs with Oakland, plays 2019 in Oakland, and then goes to San Diego in 2020 during COVID year. Played there in 2020, 2021, and 2022 before signing with the Rockies, where he spent only half the season there before getting traded back to the Padres, where he wanted to be in 2023. And then was with them in 2024 and is now with the Atlanta Braves. Quite the journey for Jurickson Profar, in an 11-year deal. I mean, he's been around the league a lot. He hit over his 100th home run last year. He's now at a career 111. He's got 444 RBIs, career OPS of 726. He'll steal a bag or two for you. He's got 57 stolen bases in his career. He got 10 of them last year as well. And he's at 917 hits. So if he has another year like he did last year, we're definitely going to see him reach the 1,000 hit mark this year. So important stuff there for Profar as he looks to, have another strong year here. And I wish him the best, switch hitter. I loved what he was able to do with the Padres last year. It kind of was just... fun for the game to see a player like him kind of break out late in his career like he did. And hopefully it wasn't just a one-year thing. Hopefully he's able to, have a strong year with the Braves, where they'll have a team that will have, Acuna coming back at some point, that will have Albies, that will have Austin Riley, that, with everything that went wrong for them last year, hopefully it's a turnaround and they have everything go right for them this year. Profar in left, Michael Harris in center. You'd bring Acuna back in right, but until then, Jared Kelenic out there, Sean Murphy behind the dish. You got Albies at second, Matt Olson at first. Marcell Ozuna had a great year as a DH. Austin Riley's at third. Do you go and get a shortstop? Orlando Arcia is still around there. And you got some young kids there. And, of course, the rotation, what kind of deal would that look like? Chris Sale had a crazy year. Is he going to come back to that form? Ian Anderson, is he going to make a return at any point? Spencer Strider, when's his return going to happen? So I think the Braves, if injuries come back, if Acuna and Strider come back in good stride earlier in the year-ish, they could be looking really good here. I'm just trying to pull up the reports right now. Spencer Strider right now has no timetable for his return yet, but Ozzy Albies is questionable for opening day, so I'd assume, not Albies, Acuna. Albies is healthy. Acuna could be ready for opening day, or at least early on. Strider, we're not so sure about, but either way, Profar will be joining that stacked Braves team and help join the fight against the Mets and Phillies as the Braves try to win the division back once again. So there is Profar dealt to the Braves. Moving on here, we've got some relief pitcher signings. I'm just going to throw these all together, give each one a quick mention here, and move on from there. Paul Sewald, kind of the most notable relief pitcher out of the three here. He is signing a deal with the Cleveland Guardians. It's a one-year deal worth $7 million. The two sides have a mutual option for 2026 as well for $10 million. So a good year for Sewald. The Guardians might bring him back for $10 million if, not good enough where Sewald thinks he can earn more. They, mutual options I feel like never really work out that well. Once in a while we'll see, it happen, but I always feel like someone backs up because either the player plays too bad that the team doesn't want him, or the player plays too good that he thinks he can earn more. So, questionable stuff there. AJ Minter is signing with the New York Mets. It's a 2-year deal for $22 million. And then Jose Leclerc is signing a 1-year deal with the Athletics for $10 million. So, why don't we start there? Because it's very interesting to see, all of a sudden, Oakland goes homeless and they're signing Severino and they're signing Leclerc and they're just making moves all of a sudden. It's very interesting that, either the Athletics are trying to now make a good team, they think they can compete, or they're just trying to, shape up where they can. They've signed Leclerc, they signed Severino, they traded for Jeffrey Springs, they signed Gio Urshela, they picked up the Noah Mindrock, I believe his name was, in the Rule 5 earlier this year. So they're making moves. It's very interesting to see kind of what Oakland's style is here. Jose Leclerc, if you do not remember, he is part of the 2023 Texas winning the World Series team. He was a big part in that bullpen there. Always been a dependable relief pitcher, especially in those last 2 years here, 2022 and 2023. Last year specifically with Texas wasn't his strongest year. He played 64 games with a 4.32 ERA. A tougher year for him. The years before that, in the 2023, where the Texas did win the World Series, he had a 2.68 ERA, kind of a low for his career almost. In 2018, he did have a 1.56 in 59 games. So he had some successful years with Texas. His whole 8-year career was with the Rangers. He started at the age of 22 in 2016, played 12 games for Texas there, and has played all the way with them up until 2024. Of course, did not play in 2021 when he was dealing with an injury. But Leclerc can be dependable. He's a flamethrower. His fastball gets up there. It'll just be a matter of what kind of potential, I guess, that the Athletics can tap into him. Obviously, Mason Miller is the closer there. So, I would see Leclerc coming out in the 8th inning more so, kind of, the setup position there to turn it over to Mason Miller. The Athletics team kind of just comes together a little bit. I'm excited to see what kind of year they have for 2025, and, I'll be with them, actually, one step of the way. Love me some athletics. Moving on, AJ Minter now, that 2-year, $22 million deal here. He's joining the Mets. He was with the Braves in 2021 when they went to the World Series. Basically the same thing as Leclerc, because he's been with the Braves since he debuted in 2017 at the age of 23. A whole 8-year career in Atlanta, where he was 24 and 29, a career 3.28 ERA. He's played 384 games for them, where he's made 36 saves, 348 innings, and 422 strikeouts to his name. Last year with the Braves, only played 39 games. Had a 2.62 ERA in those games, though. Had a save to boot as well. So, I think Minter is still one of the top lefty relief pitchers in the game right now. So him joining the Mets bullpen, benefits the Mets. Of course, similar to the Athletics signing Leclerc when they have Miller, the Mets are signing Minter when they have Diaz. So similarly enough, I think AJ Minter will be more coming out in the 8th inning kind of setup role here. And, kind of help out the Mets whenever they can. The bullpen, we saw these guys be dependable last year. It's now the question of can they be dependable again this year. Of course, they've signed Frankie Montas and Clay Holmes they signed, but they're planning to use him as a starter. So plenty of questions there for the New York Mets. We'll have to see kind of what ends up happening with them. But yeah, Minter joins the Mets, and that leaves the last relief pitcher to talk about, and that's Paul Sewald, who's joining the Guardians. Similar enough with the Mets and the Athletics. Paul Sewald, once top closer when he was with Seattle, when he was with the Diamondbacks, which are the two teams he had played for, as well as the Mets. People forget that he was a New York Metropolitan at one point in his career. He was he signed a free agency with Seattle before being dealt to Arizona during their postseason run. He almost was a World Series winner in 2023, of course, but had a flumber. He, Ryan Thompson, and Kevin Ginkel, those are the three magic arms at the Diamondbacks bullpen during that postseason run. He spent a year and a half in Arizona, where he was a 4.08 ERA. He struggled last year mightily, played 42 games with Arizona, a 4.31 ERA. He had 16 saves, just kind of a down year for him, really, just not the Sewald that we once knew. His days with Seattle were top notch. In 2021, 3.06 ERA, 62 games, he had 11 saves. In 2023, that the year before, that was his best year, at 34 saves. He had a 3.12 ERA across both teams, Seattle and Arizona. 2022, his best year kind of for himself in terms of pitching-wise. 2.67 ERA, was 5-4 with 20 saves. So he's had a lot of success, but of course he is up there as well. He bloomed into the league late when he was with the Mets in 2017 at the age of 27. Now he is going into his 9th year at the age of 35. So he's up there a little bit. Can he be dependable like he was with Seattle? Is he going to struggle? Those are the questions that we have to see, but he is not going to be the closer. He's going to be more of the setup guy there as well. Maybe not even, because the Guardians have so much pitching, they don't even know what to do with themselves. But of course, Emmanuel Clase would definitely be the closing pitcher there. Cade Smith had a fantastic rookie year. Maybe he's still a setup man, but they have Hunter Gaddis there as well, and other guys. And so Sewald will join a very stacked Guardians pen, and that might help him out, because then, the workload might not feel as heavy for him, because he's not the guy, he is just one of the guys. And I think that helps, certain players and certain pitchers when they don't feel the stress that whenever they step on the mound, they're the guy that needs to get the outs here. And, when you have, like I said, Emmanuel Clase, Cade Smith, Hunter Gaddis, there are plenty of other guys in that Cleveland's Guardians bullpen that, the pressure will maybe be off Sewald as much. I feel like when he was with Seattle, there was other guys there, but he was the closer. He was the dependent factor. In Arizona, we saw, how good the team was when they got to the postseason in 2023, but they lost it a little bit. And, last year I don't remember any strong suits of that Diamondbacks pen besides Sewald, and even he wasn't that strong. That's why the Diamondbacks struggled and ended up missing the playoffs by only one game. That and the fact that Corbin Carroll had a sophomore struggle. But regardless, Sewald will be a Guardian, and those are the three relief pitchers that have signed this week. Just going to throw in a couple of details here that I wanted to bring up, but didn't want to spend too much time on it. John Berti is signing with the Chicago Cubs. It's a one-year deal worth $2 million. Cubs are going to be in for an interesting 2025, I feel like. They've, brought in Carson Kelly. They've now brought in John Berti. They traded for Kyle Tucker. They've got a Rule 5 pick and Gage Workman around there. They've brought in Matthew Boyd. They signed Colin Ray. They traded for Eli Morgan. So the Cubs have made a lot of additions. I think they're going to really be trying to win this division here, but it might come as a one-year deal unless they can re-sign Tucker, which I don't know how that goes, but either way, Cubs continue to make some moves here. Kirby Yates was reported a couple days ago that he signed with the Los Angeles Dodgers to a tentative agreement. There's, 3 days have passed, and we've still seen nothing about it. Any, how long it's been, if the money in the deal. And then I was reading something I think last night, and it said that it wasn't even official yet. So I don't know why we had the report that it was official and it was being talked about. But either way, Yates could be a Dodger. They might just be working on a few kinks. There might be, something maybe with his physical. We've seen Kirby Yates fail a physical before with the Toronto Blue Jays, and yet they still signed him. Didn't play a single game for them, and, he's bounced around since, but he's still a good pitcher despite being up there in age, and he's had a strong year with Texas last year. So, it would just be another pin for the Dodgers and another arsenal in their bullpen. So we'll have to see if that Yates deal officially goes through. We'll talk about that more when it officially does. And the last thing I wanted to mention here is that the Angels made a couple of minor league signings this week that are very interesting, one of which, J.D. Davis. So that's always kind of fun. I like J.D. Davis. His days with the Mets there were enjoyable to watch. But the real one that I'm very curious about is, of course, Tim Anderson. Now, let me tell you, I do like Tim Anderson. I think he's a great shortstop, or at least was a great shortstop in his earlier days with the White Sox. Has a batting title to his name as well. It'll be very interesting to see what kind of year he has if he's able to break with the team. Of course, they have a shortstop in Zach Neto, young kid, very good, and they have a second baseman in Luis Rengifo, very good. So, unless you want to put him at third base, because eventually Anthony Rendon will get hurt. I don't know what the deal is there, but hopefully Tim Anderson can find his way onto the team. I like Tim Anderson. I mentioned that, and hopefully he's able to help out. Angels will be very interesting to see what kind of year they have, but until then, we can only sit back and wait. Maybe they make one more big splash, but Tim Anderson and J.D. Davis, fun guys who have minor league deals, tentative agreements there with Los Angeles. Last bit of news to talk about here really quickly is a couple days ago was the Hall of Fame inductees. We saw the voting for the Hall of Fame, who made it in and who did not. That's always the question that we want to see. And this year we'll have 3 more additions into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Of course, these are voted on by the Baseball Writers of America, and they have selected 3 guys to join the Hall of Fame. First and foremost, of course, Ichiro Suzuki will be joining the Hall of Fame, and he will be joining it with a class of Billy Wagner and CC Sabathia. Ichiro Suzuki was 1 vote off from becoming the unanimous hitter, the first ever unanimous hitter to be inducted, 99.7 to that one writer. I don't know what you're thinking, because obviously Suzuki's a Hall of Famer. Then you have CC Sabathia, who had 86.8% of the vote, and then Billy Wagner, 82.5% of the vote. Carlos Beltran came 4th with 70.3. He was 4.7% off from being inducted, and then Andrew Jones, 66.2% for him. Everybody else received less than 40%, and of course, you need 75% of the vote to get into the Hall of Fame. So 3 guys joined. The fact that Beltran was only 4.7 off is very interesting, of course, because he was part of that cheating Astros scandal as a coach. And a part of that, staff and the culture there. So very interesting to see that. And of course, Andrew Jones, I feel like he should be deserving in the Hall of Fame as well. I'm very open-minded. I think a lot of players deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, but of course, it is the Baseball Writers of America. So whatever happens there. Just to give you guys a brief summary of course, these players, because maybe, you're a young kid and you missed out on watching some of these greats. Ichiro Suzuki, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. He was an MVP, a 10-time All-Star, a 3-time Silver Slugger, and All-Star MVP. He won the Rookie of the Year, a 10-time Gold Glover, and a 2-time batting title. His baseball reference page looks God's given gift. Those first 10 years of his career when he played with Seattle from 2001 all the way to 2010 were fantastic. Of course, he played with them all the way up until 2012 when he eventually was traded to the Yankees. Spent 3 years in New York before heading over to Miami for 4 years before finishing his career at the age of 45 in 2019 with Seattle. He came back for 2 years with Seattle. All of his success, all of his numbers, and all of the greatest parts about Ichiro happened in those early days. From 2001 to 2010, 10 straight All-Star votes. He had an MVP and Rookie of the Year in his first year in the big league. He came into the big leagues in 2001, was an All-Star, Rookie of the Year, Gold Glover, Silver Slugger, and an MVP. He had 242 hits, a batting average of 350. He played 157 games. I mean, there's so much black on this page. It's incredible to look at. Ichiro, great player. CC Sabathia, he's a Cy Young winner, 2009 World Series winner with the Yankees, ALCS MVP as well, and a 6-time All-Star. His numbers are filthy. He had fantastic years. Played with the Guardians before going over to Milwaukee for a short stint, before having his whole career kind of from New York on from 2009 all the way to 2019 when he retired at the age of 38. Fantastic player, fantastic guy. And then lastly, Billy Wagner. This is the one guy that I never really got to see growing up. Of course, he pitched from 1995 to 2010. I saw him a little bit towards his heyday. He was an All-Star in 2010. In his last year at the big leagues with the Braves, he was fantastic. 71 games, a 1.73 ERA, and 37 saves at the age of 38. So some fantastic stuff there. But Billy Wagner, 7-time All-Star, and as well as a Relief Pitcher of the Year award. Finished top 5 in Cy Young voting 1 year. Play with Houston, play with the Phillies, play with the Mets, Boston, and Atlanta. So 5-year career there, 5-team career. But of course, most of his success came with the Astros, where he started debuting in 1995 at the age of 23 and spent 9 years with the Astros before heading over to then Philly and New York, etc., etc. Those are the Hall of Famers, and this is the episode. I appreciate you guys always, and thank you for listening and listening to this episode. We'll see what happens next week. We still got plenty of Sonics to happen. We're getting close to February. It's only less than a month before pitchers and catchers start reporting to spring training, and we still got Bregman on side. We still got Alonso on side. There's still plenty of free agents waiting to go, and that's just kind of the nature of the way free agency works here in the MLB. I appreciate you all. Thank you, everybody, so much, and I will see you next time.